Today I'm going to go over 5 things that matter when it comes to counting and tracking macros. First, what is tracking macros? That was a question that I had. I heard all of these things about macro. What does that even mean? What does it mean to track macros? All it is logging your food and aiming to hit a specific amount of carbs, protein, and fat at the end of the day. You might be wondering, why does someone want to log their food? And how do I log my food? First, you log your food in an app that makes it really easy. There's tons of apps these days that you can just scan a barcode and load in exactly what you've eaten. You could also go the old school route and you could write down every single thing in a food journal that you've eaten throughout the day and what the carbs, protein, and fat are and tally them up at the end of the day. Why would you want to go through all of the effort and the hassle of doing this? Because this is how you're going to change your body composition. This is how you're going to achieve your dream physique goals. And a lot of people get that confused when it comes to counting calories or it comes to counting macros. Isn't it the same thing? No, it's not the same thing. Yes, there are calories that you will see at the end of the day when you count macros, but counting calories means you're just ending for an end goal of calories at the end of the day. It doesn't matter when you count calories what that carb, fat, and protein breakdown is. When you count macros, you have a specific breakdown that you're aiming for when it comes to carbs, fats, and proteins, and that's how you're gonna change your physique. Before we dive into this video, it's super important to note that when it comes to macro counting and everybody's splits and breakdowns, every person is unique. You're gonna be different than your best friend, than your sister, than your brother, than your parents. Anybody and everybody responds differently to nutrition. So, what is a macro? Macro stands for macronutrients. It's how we get our energy so our body can function properly. Carbs is gonna be our first macro. That's gonna be our primary source of fuel. And they have 4 calories per 1 gram of carbohydrate. Protein is gonna be super important for building lean tissue and body mass. This is gonna be a really big one if you want to have a more muscular toned look, and that is also gonna have 4 calories per gram. Fats are essential for our hormones, they're essential for our brain function, and those are gonna have 9 calories per gram. So if you're eating a higher fat food, you're likely gonna feel more satiated and fuller longer because it has more calories per 1 gram of fat than a protein or carbohydrate has. So let's get into these 5 tips that I wish I knew that really do matter when it comes to counting macros. First, and our best tip of the day is gonna be pre-log your food. This is so very important. When I've started counting macros, I can't tell you how many times I got to the end of the day and I had no fat left, no carbs left, and I had like 30 grams of protein. What the heck am I supposed to eat? I guess it's ice chips and egg whites for the rest of the night, which is gross. Nobody wants to end their night like that. So if I would have pre-planned or logged my food ahead of time, I would have been able to balance out my carbs, protein, and fat throughout the day so I didn't end up with only 30 grams of protein left. You can spend 5 to 10 minutes in the morning planning out your meals. Log your oats, your potatoes, your toast, whatever it is that you eat throughout the day, your lean meats, your avocado, your oils, your cooking oils, we don't want to forget those. Log those early so that way you know exactly what your meal should be and consist of, so it makes eating easy. It only takes about 5 to 10 minutes. If you don't have that 5 to 10 minutes at the start of the day, you don't have to pre-log your entire day, but log your meal before you eat it. So Patrick can vouch for me. I'm always pulling out my ingredients and I'm logging them into the app to make sure that it balances and then I understand what my meal consists of. I can sit there and I can label, this is my carbohydrate, this is my protein, this is my fat. So 1, I know I have a balanced meal, and 2, I know that I'm not using up all of my fats or all of my carbs in that one meal. So when I get later on in the day, I still have some of that stuff left to eat. That way I can also enjoy well-balanced meals. This video is sponsored by Element. Did you know that when you sweat, the primary electrolyte lost is sodium? When sodium's not replaced, it's common to experience symptoms such as muscle fatigue and cramps. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. It contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. It can help prevent and eliminate muscle cramps, fatigue, headaches, sleeplessness, and other symptoms related to electrolyte deficiency. Element is formulated to help everyone with their electrolyte needs. That includes moms, dads, fitness enthusiasts, athletes, and it's perfectly suited for those of you on a keto or low-carb diet. Right now, Element is offering my subscribers, that's you all, a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single-serving packets free with any Element order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors or share with a salty friend. Get yours at drinkelement.com/Christy. This deal is only available through my link, so make sure you click below at drinklmnt.com/Christy. That's Christi. Now, back to the video. By planning ahead or pre-logging your food, it's gonna help you understand what to eat and how much to eat. And this is gonna help you hit your macro goals at the end of the day. If you decide like, oh, I don't feel like logging it now, I'm just gonna make this plate, or you do weigh it and then you go ahead and eat it and you go on with your day and you wait till that night or the next day, you're probably gonna forget what you had in that meal, and now it's guesswork, which is no longer accurate. And when we're counting macros, we wanna be as precise and accurate as we can be so we can hit our goals. Now, let's talk about how do you know if you're ready to count macros? Well, first, what I would recommend is spending 7 to 14 days counting everything you eat on a daily basis. Don't worry about what your protein, carbs, or fats are at the end of the day. Just make sure you count every single thing that you put in your mouth for 1 to 2 weeks. Then at the end of that 1 to 2 weeks, you're gonna take an average of what your carbs were per day, what your fats, and what your protein are. That is gonna be your current habits and what you're currently eating. So tip number 2 is gonna be understanding your eating habits and where you currently are. Yes, you can just download an app and put in what you weigh, how much you exercise, and it's gonna spit out this formula, but what this formula has no idea of is how much you're currently eating and what your habits currently are. So maybe you're only eating 1,000 calories a day, but this app is telling you to eat 2,500. That is a huge swing that we don't just wanna make overnight, because your body is gonna freak out and be like, what the heck are you doing with all of this food? Or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe you're eating 3,000 calories a day, but with your goals, the app spits out 1,500. Again, that's a severe deficit, and your body's gonna kind of go into a little bit of shock, wondering like, why all of a sudden are we going into this severe deficit when I've been eating this way? So what I recommend is tip number 2, understand your habits and your eating patterns. Do that by counting for 1 to 2 weeks. If you're like, I don't want to count for 1 to 2 weeks, I just want you to tell me what to eat and I want to start, then we're probably not ready to count macros, because macros requires counting everything that you eat throughout the day. So putting in that upfront work to understand habits and understand your eating patterns is only going to set you up for success so that you get results quicker. It's going to help us with that trial and error period and give us a baseline for where we need to start. Once you have your baseline, it's super important just to look at your goals. What are your goals? Then we can tailor our macros to fit our goals. If you want to lose weight, you have to be in a small deficit. Usually we recommend around a 10% deficit. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day with your current habits, you're gonna subtract 10% of that, which would be 200 calories. And ideally that's usually with fats and carbs. We can go more into detail with the guide link that we have, which is gonna show you how to do this. If you wanna be in a surplus or gaining, then we're gonna likely start with a 10% surplus. That way our body has enough food to be able to store and to build muscle and to be able to put on weight. Understanding your goals and what they are is gonna be super important when it comes to figuring out your macro breakdown and split. So to summarize tip number 2, understand your habits and your current eating, and then fuel for your goals. Tip number 3, start reading and understanding food labels. Have you ever paid attention to serving sizes? That's what I'm talking about when we talk about reading food labels. Yes, we should be checking the label and looking at ingredients, making sure there's not a ton of additives or sugar or things like that, but we really need to check out serving sizes. We also should be checking out what is the total fat per serving size. What's the total carbohydrate? What's the total protein? That way, when I go to create my plate, I understand, okay, a half of cup of oats is gonna have 2.5 grams of fat, it's gonna have 5 grams of protein, and it's gonna have 27 grams of carbohydrates. That to me would be more of a higher dense carbohydrate food with a lower fat. So I know if I need something that has lower fat, that would be a great option. So flipping that item over, understanding the packaging, understanding how to read the label is gonna help us be more concise and more precise and more accurate when it comes to creating our plate and understanding our meals. To get the most accurate breakdown, I'm gonna recommend using a scale. A scale in grams is gonna be the most accurate. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a half a cup of oats and I've weighed it on my scale, and really 40 grams is a serving, but I have 63 grams in that half of a cup, even though I think I've done a half a cup. That really comes out to a serving and a half of those oats. Same with nut butter. 2 tablespoons is a serving of nut butter. You want a level tablespoon. I can't tell you how many times I've scooped out a tablespoon. I'm like, oh yeah, that should be a tablespoon. I weigh it, and instead of it being 32 grams, it's 54. So using a scale is gonna help you be accurate, and it's gonna help you be precise so that you know exactly what you're eating. Not only is the scale gonna help you with accuracy, it's also gonna help you get the hang of portion control. So the more that you take out, okay, that's 1 tablespoon of nut butter, that's what this looks like, the more you can do that eyeballing later on as you get more comfortable. But it's gonna take a little bit of time and practice and effort on your part to understand and use the scale to get the hang of what that looks like. Tip number 4, be 100% honest with yourself. What are you putting into your body? BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes, those add up. There are no free calories. So whether that's taking a bite of your kid's peanut butter and jelly sandwich or making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for yourself, those things add up and we need to weigh and measure those. What I think macro counting really helps with is understanding that those bites, licks, and tastes throughout the day really add up. It helps us avoid snacking because I'm like, oh geez, I don't want to get the scale out to weigh out 3 pieces of cereal, so I'm just not going to eat that cereal. Or if you do want to have a handful of cereal, get your scale out, weigh it, and put it into MyFitnessPal or whatever app that you're using, because that stuff is going to add up throughout the day. If you don't weigh and measure, or you don't count your BLTs, your bites, your licks, and your tastes, you're only going to be hindering your results. If you really want to get the most out of this and you're taking the effort to weigh and measure everything that you're eating, then make sure you include those into your end results for the day. Tip number 5, the final one, consistency over perfection. It's really easy to get so caught up in this and be like, I have to be as perfect as possible. I have to hit everything to a T. That's not necessarily true. As long as we are consistent and we show up and we are as consistent as possible each and every day, so within 10 grams of carbohydrates, within 5 grams of our protein, and within 5 grams of our fats at the end of each day, we're gonna be consistent over time and we are gonna get the results. Yes, seeing perfect numbers at the end of the day is always best, but it's sometimes almost impossible or it's really challenging to get there. So just being within that range is gonna be super helpful and that will get you results. It will also not drive you mad by trying to end perfectly. So as long as you stay consistent, your body will change, your composition will change, and you will get the results if we are taking into the account all of the other stuff that we need to do. Aiming to be as consistent as possible without stressing about perfection is gonna be key. Consistency comes in many ways, like when we're learning to use a scale, instead of using the generic measurements of, oh, a handful of this, oh, maybe a tablespoon of this, and actually taking the time to pull out our scale and understanding that handful actually is 2 or 3 servings instead of 1 serving, that will really help you over time as you get the hang of what you're building your meals out to be. These are 5 tips that took me a while to understand and that really made a difference for me when it came to macro counting. Like I said, macro counting is different than calorie counting because macro counting is how we are gonna change our body composition. It's understanding what balance of foods we're putting into our body so we can work towards our goals. If you wanna learn more about macro counting, why you should track, the benefits of tracking, if it's for you, and included a few recipes, click the link here. We've got a more detailed guide that goes further in depth when it comes to macro tracking. I hope this video was super helpful for you guys. I love macros. I do believe it's something that everybody should do at some point to have a great understanding of what they're putting into their body, but I don't believe it's something that you have to do forever. Once you do it for a little bit and you start to understand what that portion control looks like, what a tablespoon of nut butter is, that your cooking oil actually does matter, you start to get the hang of it and you can apply it to your everyday life without having to physically pull the scale out every single time. If there's anything else you guys want to see on nutrition, recipes, health and fitness, drop your comment below. We would love to hear, and check out the links below as well for all the programs that we offer when it comes to changing your aesthetics or helping you meet your performance goals. Have a great day, and don't forget, smash that like button. It really does help our channel.